Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Citizen Promaster Eco Drive Diver reference BN0168-06L. This watch is widely available from Citizen stockists or from the official brand website for €360. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a cardboard watch box, which is housed inside this outer black cardboard box. So I'll take it out and show it to you. This is the cardboard watch box itself in the form of a cylindrical tube, and as you can see, branded with Citizen. And on the base it says proudly made with recyclable paper, and this indicates Citizen's policy of using sustainable recyclable materials for the packaging. One removes the lid, and there's a block of foam which does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping from any damage. And inside the base, which is fully upholstered with contrasting grey velour fabric to a good standard, we have a cutout and a piece of flexible metal which is also upholstered with grey velour fabric, so you can expand and contract it to fit the respective strap size. It's a snug fit inside the cutout, as you can see, and good presentation. Now I think it's acceptable to use this style of cardboard watch box, bearing in mind this is a low tier price point piece at €360. To clarify or to remind you, low tier is €0 to €500 respectively. With regards to items that come with the piece, it comes with this leaflet, which is the guarantee and watch care information. Inside it details the terms and conditions of the 5-year international warranty. I want to give due credit to Citizen here, because often low tier pieces between €0 and €500 price point are only covered by a 12-month or 2-year international warranty. 5-year international warranties are the industry standard for high tier pieces at €10,000+. One doesn't often see 5 years of warranty even in the mid tier between €500 and €5,000 respectively. To see it in the low tier at €360 is exceptional, and it's something that adds significant value to this piece. Also, it details the website citizenwatch.ie and a contact email. If you want to make a warranty claim during the 5-year period, you can download the owner's instruction manual with clear, concise diagrams and instructions in English detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Citizen Caliber E168 Eco Drive Quartz, online. And lastly, one also gets this cardboard tag, which is branded with Citizen. And on the reverse, we have the barcode, QR code, full reference number for the piece, and also the caliber used, which, as I've detailed, is the Citizen Caliber E168 Eco Drive Quartz. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 44mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 48.8mm, a thickness of 11.6mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The strap is made from polyurethane. Now, to clarify, it's 20mm lug width and it's tapered. It tapers from 20mm at the spring bar down to the buckle and tang. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, but it is sterile. Brushed satin finished on the top side, underside and flanks. No sharp edges, no sharp corners. But however, subjectively one could be critical of the use of a sterile buckle and tang at this price point in the low tier. At €360, I think it's disappointing, and I'd like to see it engraved and signed with Citizen's text logo. That would further enhance the piece. But on a positive note, it's a nice heavy gauge of solid 316L grade stainless steel, and it has a beautiful luster to the top side, underside and flanks, which are brushed satin finished throughout. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat mineral crystal. Now, this may come as a surprise to you, because one would expect the industry standard at this price point to have sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside. Now, the mineral crystal lacks AR coating. When I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see the glare and highly reflective nature of the flat mineral crystal. Mineral crystal is not as hard and scratch resistant as sapphire crystal, and this piece would really benefit from that update or upgrade to sapphire crystal, which is harder and more scratch resistant, but also the benefits of AR coating. The mirror polished applied indices and mirror polished hour hand are very shiny and reflective, and of course the flat underside is also very shiny like a mirror. As you can see, lots of glare from it. This really would benefit from sapphire crystal with AR coating. But on a positive note, quality of the application of the applied indices is good. Proportions are good. I like the symmetry of the 12, 9, 6 and 3 larger indices, and they contrast with the smaller circular indices for the other hour markers. We've got a bevel chapter ring which has larger white ticks for the hour ticks, and then the 60-minute ticks are smaller. Legibility is good, clarity is good. It's a very easy to read dial, and the clarity of the mineral crystal is good. No distortion when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, despite the reflection due to the lack of AR coating. Handset is correctly proportioned, and one can immediately differentiate between the pointed tip, syringe tip to the hour hand, and the arrowhead contrasting red minutes hand. Rather like a plunger style, I like the contrasting red, and it complements the red Pepsi bezel, which is made from aluminium and anodized in both red and blue. The blue complements the matte blue dial. Citizen have made the correct decision with this Promaster Eco Drive diver by using a matte blue dial and also chaptering versus a glossy enamel blue, or alternatively sunray pattern to it, because you can see the benefit of it being matte rather than glossy enamel or sunray finish is it's not as shiny and reflective, so the clarity is good, the legibility is good. With regards to printing of the white minute ticks on the chaptering, it's high definition and crisp, and also the text on the dial is high definition and crisp. The font isn't too thick and blurry, legibility is good, and it gives the piece a high-end feel. Citizen Text logo, it has a very aesthetically pleasing font, and I like there's only 2 lines of text at 6 o'clock. Often low tier and mid tier brands have a tendency to over-brand the dial with too much text and specification, and so much of it is unnecessary, even on a dive piece. 2 lines of text is correct. Eco Drive is good, it balances the Citizen logo, and then we simply have Divers 200M, because this piece meets the criteria for ISO compliancy, which is good, and therefore it's allowed to have Divers 200M as per ISO certified pieces. So this is a credible 200 meter ISO certified dive piece. Excellent, a real tool watch. So, solid 316L grade stainless steel bezel. It's got flats and it's also got knurls. And as opposed to being a scalloped bezel, gear tooth profile bezel, or coin edge bezel, which are the industry standards. The knurl bezel is surprisingly grippy and tactile. Now, with the smooth portions, you would expect it to be slippy and difficult to get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, with a wet hand, or when we're wearing a glove. Now, bear in mind, this is intended to be a credible dive piece, used for seawater diving, wearing a wetsuit and wearing a rubber glove, for example, and your hands are going to be wet. But you can still manipulate the bezel with a gloved hand or when the fingers are wet, and it's surprisingly grippy because the knurling actually is very tactile. It's very grippy and you can get good purchase. The flats are smooth and slippery, and of course, as one would expect, they're more difficult to get purchase on, but you can get good purchase on the knurling. So I like it. Visually it looks aesthetically pleasing, gives the piece a tool watch aesthetic, makes a refreshing change from just using the default option of a scalloped bezel, gear tooth bezel, or coin edge bezel respectively. The thing that may come as a surprise to you is it is a 60-click unidirectional bezel rather than the more contemporary industry standard of 120. 60-click unidirectional bezels were popular in the 1970s, 1980s through to the 1990s, and then at that point in the 1990s 120 succeeded 60. Subjectively, one could be critical and say Citizen could update this to 120, it would give it a smoother, more refined feel to it, but if you like the tool watch aesthetic and the tool watch feeling of a 60-click bezel used in the 1970s, 1980s to 1990s, of course you'll appreciate it. From the majority of Citizen Promaster collectors, 60-click bezel is not going to be detrimental, I just prefer 120. Heavier clicks, loud audible clicks, sound good, feels good. You can feel the click spring engaging with every one of the 60 grooves machined into the underside of the solid stainless steel bezel. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, feels nice and tight. In terms of resistance, it feels very similar to a Seiko 5KX. It's very well balanced. It doesn't feel too heavy or too light. It feels in between the two. And I like the smooth resistance. Despite it not being as smooth and refined as 120 clicks, the 60 clicks feel even. All the way through the 360 degrees of rotation, it doesn't get lighter or heavier. It feels very well balanced. The quality control, builds quality and tolerances are good. So finally, let's just check the alignment of the Lume pip and triangle. One more click. Perfect. Lume pip and triangle perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock index on the dial and the 60-minute tick on the chaptering. So quality control, build quality, tolerances are all good. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, even through the 360 degrees, and nice loud audible clicks. It's good. So, crown guards at 4 o'clock, and we've got a knurl crown, which is solid 316L grade stainless steel, mirror polished, large chamfer to it, which deletes the sharp tips to the knurl teeth, and it's got a matte bead blasted background with a mirror polished embossed Eco Drive arrowhead emblem. Correctly proportioned, crown guards are correctly proportioned, they do a good job of protecting it, but it projects far enough at the 4 o'clock position to get good purchase with your index finger and thumb. Silky smooth. Provides 200 metres of hermetic seal, minimal friction between the threads, which is good. So build quality, quality control and tolerances are good. This is silky smooth. And pulling it out to the first click position is the date complication, but I'm just going to pull it out to the second click and move the minute hands out of the way so you can see the date better. So first click is the date complication. When you rotate the crown anti-clockwise, you can see the quick set data complication advances. Has a light clicking sensation, feels lighter than the Seiko NH35A, which has a heavy clicking sensation. This feels more like a Miyota caliber such as the 8215 or 9015. It's got that light clicking action to it. Feels lighter than an SW200-1, or alternatively a Soprod P024 or an ETA 2824-2, which you may be familiar with. So it really feels similar in terms of the clicking sensation, how loud it sounds and also how it feels, to a light sensation like an 8215 or 9015, much lighter than an NH35A. So I like the feeling of it. The alignment of the single and the double Arabic numerals are correct. They're not too far to the left or the right of the white framing around the date window, and they're not too high or too low. So proportions are good. The black Arabic numerals are printed with high definition crisp fonts. They're not too thick, they're not too blurry. And despite the additional thickness of the EcoDrive dial, which has to be thicker because it is of course solar powered, it's not too thick, so it doesn't create a permanent shadow around the date window. So the legibility is good with the absence of a Cyclops magnifier. You can easily read both the singles and the doubles. And I like the proportions. The font is good, legibility is good, and both the singles and doubles are easy to read. So that's the benefit. So pulling it out to the second click hacks the movement, and if you look at the contrasting white second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. So therefore, with the Citizen Caliber E168 EcoDrive Quartz, it's possible to set the time precisely to the second, so that's good. We're now in the time setting position, and it feels smooth, minimal friction to it. It's got a medium resistance to it, so it doesn't feel stiff and too heavy and doesn't feel too light. And I like the feeling of it. It feels reliable and robust, and that's a characteristic of the E168, which is one of the best Citizen calibers, the EcoDrive series of quartz movements. The build quality is good, the refinement is there. So I like the feeling of it. It feels smooth, doesn't feel rough or gritty, doesn't feel stiff, and it does have some friction to it, which is good. It doesn't feel too light, and I like that aspect of it. So pleasure to set the time. And minimal backplay in the gearing. You don't have to rotate the knurled crown too much clockwise or anti-clockwise. There's an almost immediate response to the contrasting red minute hand when you rotate the crown. You don't have to take up a lot of backplay, so it's a very satisfying quartz caliber to use. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the white contrasting second hand. You can see it begins to tick around the dial once again. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup, perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Silky smooth, feels refined, they could not improve upon it. Right, so let's look at the strap in detail. So this is made from blue polyurethane. So to put this into perspective, polyurethane feels less stiff, it's more supple than resin, for example used on Casio digital watches, which you'll all be familiar with. However, it does feel stiffer than silicone rubber, which is far softer. The benefit of polyurethane versus silicone rubber is it is more robust, it's more durable, it's more hard wearing, it's chemical, UV and acid resistant, so they are the positives of it, but the negative is it's not as soft and supple as silicone. However, one has to appreciate this Promaster EcoDrive Diver is intended to be used as a tool watch for seawater diving, wearing it around a wetsuit, for example. And therefore, it doesn't need to be as soft and supple because you're going to be wearing it around a wetsuit, and therefore robust is the important aspect. Rather than it being soft and supple, it needs to be durable. Now, the other thing I like about it is it has these waves in it. The waves are aesthetically pleasing, but they also serve a meaningful purpose because they allow the polyurethane strap, which is stiffer than silicone, to contract, because what happens is when you wear this around a wetsuit for seawater diving, the pressure causes the strap to contract around the wrist, and the waves in it allow the strap to compress when it's underwater and then expand when you come up to surface. So it allows for some expansion in the strap. It can contract and also expand, and you don't need to adjust the buckle and tang. It will do it itself depending on the pressure conditions. So if you're underwater, it's under pressure, the strap shortens up, it contracts due to the waves, and when you come up to surface and of course it dries out, it expands around the wrist. So it's good, it does serve a purpose. Fully perforated, looks aesthetically pleasing, plenty of holes in it for the buckle and tang to engage. This will fit from a minimum 6-inch up to a maximum 8-inch wrist size. Perforations look good, but they also serve a meaningful purpose again because they allow for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist so the strap will dry out quickly in warmer weather or when you are active. The other purpose is they allow for the polyurethane strap to dry out quickly after diving in seawater because the water can wick away from the wrist. So it's good, looks good, feels good, serves a purpose. 2 sliding keepers, correctly proportioned. And the first keeper isn't fixed with teeth, Both of them slide, and there's plenty of adjustment, and you can see the perforations are good, and I like the proportions of the keepers, and plenty of adjustment. You can slide it up and down to fit a 6 to an 8 inch wrist size, so there's enough length on the strap to fit around a wetsuit and to fit from a 6 to 8 inch wrist. Underside is contrasting because it's textured finish. Now, although it's textured rather than smooth, it is actually surprisingly smooth and comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. Plenty of holes in it, perforations are good, and it does feel smooth despite being textured versus perfectly smooth. The one negative subjectively, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus, is that it uses standard stainless steel spring bars. I would like to see Citizen update this or upgrade to quick release stainless steel spring bars, because polyurethane, being stiffer than silicone rubber, and because it's reinforced around the spring bar end to make it more durable and robust, the problem is it's difficult to compress because it's very stiff, rather like a plastic or resin strap used on Casio digital watches. It feels harder than FKM floor rubber and NBR, which is nitrile butadiene rubber, or natural rubber, which are the other alternatives, the industry standards. So it feels much stiffer than rubber straps. Polyurethane feels more plastic, more like a resin strap. So therefore, with a spring bar, it's more difficult to compress the edge of it internally in between the lugs, and therefore compress the spring bar if you want to exchange the polyurethane strap for an alternative. So quick release spring bars would be beneficial. They wouldn't add significant production costs and therefore decrease profit margin per piece, something that Citizen could do very easily on the Promaster series, such as this Eco Drive Diver. Now, with regards to case back, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, concentric CNC lathe tool machining, milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well. Nice refracted finish to it. It's not mirror polished, so I like the way the light is refracted by the concentric CNC lathe tool machining. Engraved with high definition engraving with a reference number, serial number, specification of the piece. Also says Japan movement, because the Citizen Caliber E168 Eco Drive Quartz is of course made in Japan. Also says Divers Watch 200M, because this is ISO certified, so it meets all the criteria, and I like it. I like that the centre section is sterile. The benefit of it being sterile in the centre rather than being embossed or engraved with deep engraving is it's very smooth and comfortable. Other benefit is it's perfectly flat, and this is really the benefit. They've maximised the benefit of this being quartz powered rather than mechanical manual wind or automatic with a rotor. You can just see how thin and low profile it is. This is one of the flattest, thinnest stainless steel case backs, providing 200 metres of hermetic seal. It doesn't have a bubble back profile. If this had a bubble back profile as per an automatic, this would be 13+ millimeters thick. This is only 11.6, despite being a large piece with wrist presence at 44. It's excellent. It's very low profile. Again, they've made the correct decision by using a flat mineral crystal versus a box top hat crystal or double domes, because that would have increased the thickness by 1.5 to 2 millimeters, and therefore it would have been 13.6 versus 11.6. So although it's a large piece, it's very thin, and I'll show you in the wrist shots the benefits of that. So now, as I've detailed, there's plenty of length on this polyurethane strap, and although it does feel stiffer than a silicone rubber strap, you can see plenty of length. This will easily fit around a wetsuit, even on my large 8-inch wrist. You can size it down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size, which is good, and you can size it up to an 8-inch wrist size, and it would actually fit even an 8.5, as I'm going to show you, because, pleasant surprise, I'm able to engage the end of the strap in both of the sliding keepers. So this would actually fit a maximum 8.5 inch. There's actually some additional length, and I can still slide an index finger beneath a buckle and tang and strap. So this will easily fit around a wetsuit or an 8.5 inch wrist. Now, the benefit of the waves is, as I've detailed, they allow the strap to contract underwater and expand over water, but they also look aesthetically pleasing. Nice taper, it's not too aggressive, 20 tapering down to the buckle and tang. Although it's softer, more supple than resin, it's not as soft and supple as silicone rubber or FKM or NBR, as I've detailed, but it's comfortable enough. It does feel smooth enough as well, so that's something I like about it. Now, needless to say, at 44 millimeters, this piece does wear with wrist present, so I'm going to say immediately, if you are a collector with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, you can rule this piece out, because at 44 it's going to dominate your wrist too much, and even though it has a good lug to lug of 48.8, it's only 0.8 above the perfect sweet spot of 48. That is the perfect sweet spot for wrist sizes, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 or a 7 to 8 inch wrist. But however, the lug to lug is good at 48.8. The thickness is also excellent at only 11.6. The thing is the wrist presence, 44. Now it does give a tool watch aesthetic. That's good, but I would say it's best suited to collectors with a larger 7 to 8 inch plus wrist size. If you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, 44 may be too large. 20 is the correct lug width and the correct strap size for a 44 head of the piece. I like it, looks balanced. The blue polyurethane strap complements the matte blue dial, and I also like the Pepsi bezel because it has the reflective property one doesn't get. The silver minute ticks and silver Arabic numerals look very aesthetically pleasing, and it looks like a vintage aesthetic, like a dive piece from the 1970s, 1980s. So very nice to see a Pepsi bezel used on a dive piece, because usually Pepsi bezels are used on GMT pieces. So low profile. Thing I like about it is the lack of heft. This is only 94 grams, which is a pleasant surprise. Bearing in mind it is a large piece at 44, this is the benefit of it being quartz powered. It's much lighter than a mechanical manual wind piece or an automatic with a rotor, because 94 grams is very light for a 44. That's the benefit of it being on a polyurethane strap versus a stainless steel bracelet. If this were on a stainless steel bracelet, tapering from 20 to 16, it would be circa 150 grams, but because it's on this polyurethane strap, the heft is reduced significantly down to only 94. So although it does have wrist presence, it's surprisingly comfortable to wear for long periods of time, but I say that bearing in mind you have a larger wrist size of 7 to 8 inches plus. Legibility is good, clarity is good of the mineral crystal, but it just is a shame that it doesn't have sapphire crystal with AR coating. That would be better, and of course harder and more scratch resistant. Subjectively, one could say it should have a ceramic bezel insert or sapphire, because again that's harder and more scratch resistant, but I like the vintage aesthetic of aluminium bezel inserts, as you'll know from my previous reviews. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So this uses two different Lumes. It uses BGW9 on the dial and hands, and on the Lume pip on the aluminium bezel insert it uses green C3. Now subjectively one could be critical of this, because I personally prefer watches to have the same colour Lume in all three places: bezel, indices and handset. But however, I appreciate for the majority of collectors and Citizen Promaster collectors, it's not detrimental to have two different colours. Other brands do it. Omega do it on the Seamaster and the Planet Ocean, for example. They use a different colour Lume on the minutes hand versus the Lume pip, and also the indices and the hour hand. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see it has not disappointed. So really the only subjective criticism I have is the Lume pip is green, the indices and the handsets are blue because they're BGW9 versus C3. I would prefer if it had the same blue BGW9 Lume pip on the aluminium bezel inserts, because I like the three places to match. Or alternatively, C3 used on the dial and hands to match the C3 Lume pip. But in terms of performance, the exciter is potent on the Lume pip, the indices and also the handsets. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers used on the Lume pip in C3, 5 to 6 layers on the indices, 5 to 6 layers on the handsets. Even application, nice large area, nice large plot on the applied indices. I like the larger indices at 12, 9, 6 and 3 on the dial, good symmetry to the dial, and we get the benefit of this having the date complication at 4 o'clock versus the default position of 3, because that would delete the 3 o'clock index. So I like the symmetry of the 12, 9, 6 and 3, larger indices. The handset is clearly legible, large minute hand and large hour hand. You can easily differentiate between the two because the bars across them, and also the arrowhead tip to the contrasting red minute hand. So it's good. Proportions of the indices are good, meets the criteria of ISO for 200 meters, and of course therefore it can have Divers 200M printed on the dial. I think performance is good, bearing in mind it's a low tip piece at €360. This is stellar, and I'm pleased to see they haven't used the common cost-cutting measure to reduce production costs per piece and therefore maximise profit margin per piece. Often low-tier brands between €0 and €500, they will use, for example, 3 to 4 layers on the handset and 2 to 3 layers on the indices in order to cut production costs. This has 5 to 6 on the indices, 5 to 6 on the hands, 5 to 6 on the Lume pip. Stellar performance. Right, so let's discuss the movement use, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. So this is powered by the Citizen Calibre E168 Eco Drive Quartz, which is solar powered. Benefit of it being solar powered is you don't need to change batteries. When it's fully charged, it will run consistently for 6 months. and that's excellent power reserve. 6 months power reserve. The thing I like about it above all else is the accuracy. It is incredibly accurate, plus or minus 15 seconds per month. Just think about that for a moment. That's not plus or minus 15 seconds per day or per week. Plus or minus 15 seconds per month is better than plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy. Sorry, plus or minus 0 seconds per day accuracy. This one is running consistently at 0 seconds per day, plus or minus 0. Perfect accuracy. 6 month power reserve. You never need to change the battery because it's solar powered. That's the benefit of it being eco drive. So not only is it accurate, but it also never requires a battery change. Above all else, the benefit of it not needing battery changes, for example every 2 to 3 years as per other quartz powered pieces, is you're not going to allow dust particles to enter via the crown, and you're not going to allow dust particles to enter when you remove the case back. For example, if this were a standard quartz powered piece, when you unscrew the case back, you break the hermetic seal and you allow air and dust particles into the movement, and of course that contaminates it. But this is good because this is hermetically sealed to 200 meters, and you never need to unscrew the case back from when it's brand new for the full life of the watch. So excellent. I like everything about the E168. It's reliable, it's well proven, it's a good solid workhorse solar powered quartz caliber. Accuracy is stellar at plus or minus 15 seconds per month. 6 month power reserve when it's fully charged. Has hacking, which is good. You can set the time precisely to the second. Quick set date complication works well. No negatives to it whatsoever. It's durable, it's reliable, it's shock resistant, it's anti-magnetic. It is absolutely the correct choice at this price point. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. I'm going to declare this OK quality and I'm going to declare it OK value. So why do I say OK quality and OK value versus excellent or good? Well, this needs some enhancements. I'd like to see sapphire crystal with AR coating, and I'd also like to see the buckle and tang signed rather than being sterile and unsigned at €360. Now, one can be magnanimous for a low tier piece between €0 and €500 if it has mineral crystal and it's below €100. But at €360 in the low tier, it really does need to be sapphire crystal and AR coating. They are now the industry standards in 2025. The other thing is, you really need to see a signed buckle and tang with Citizen engraved at this price point. If this were below €100, one could be magnanimous, but at 360, it's a production cost-cutting measure too far. Subjectively, one could say polyurethane strap. It would be better if it were FKM floor rubber or NBR, which is nitrile butadiene. I personally prefer FKM and NBR because they are the perfect balance between durability and being robust, but lasting longer than silicone rubber, but being stiffer but not too hard, and I think that they are better. Polyurethane is durable, rather like a resin strap, but it's just not as soft and supple as FKM or NBR, and of course they are better quality. They're used on higher quality watches, so that's something I think Citizen could enhance. They could update the strap made from polyurethane, update it to FKM or NBR. That would again enhance the piece, but other than that, it's a good watch. Movement justifies the price point. The Caliber E168 EcoDrive Quartz is reliable, it's durable, and it's incredibly accurate, so I like it. Benefit is solar power, never need to change a battery. So I'm going to recommend it to you for consideration. OK quality and OK value. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Citizen Promaster EcoDrive Diver, reference BN0168-06L. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.